cuts in nutrition programs which feed hungry children.
Social Security is the biggest Ponzi scheme of all time.
You don't take food away from children, health care away from struggling people to give tax breaks to billionaires.
Let's watch Bernie Sanders on Meet the Press as he discusses Trump and his actions towards Zelensky, as well as the Republican response to that argument that is now infamous in ways. So be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll be back after with the needed context.
You just heard me speak with House Speaker Mike Johnson. He left the door open to the possibility that it may be necessary for President Zelensky to resign in order to get to a broader peace agreement. Let me ask you this question. Do you think that President Zelensky needs to resign in order for there to be a peace deal?
I think that is a horrific suggestion. Zelensky is leading a country trying to defend democracy against an authoritarian dictator, Putin, who invaded his country. And I think millions of Americans are embarrassed, are ashamed that you have a president of the United States who says that Ukraine started the war, that Zelensky is a dictator. He's got it exactly backwards. The people of Ukraine have lost tens of thousands of soldiers. Their cities are being bombed as we speak.
It's pretty simple. Zelensky has been seen as favorable throughout his presidency, with Ukrainian support growing after the disagreement with Trump. Obviously, during war, any support will drop, but I think he's still at like 49% favorability, which shows that while most Ukrainians undoubtedly do want an end to the war, it's not like they just want to keep endlessly fighting and dying. They don't see Trump as the true diplomat in negotiation. Polling also shows that the UK or EU would be preferred as a negotiator among Ukrainians, because of how poorly they view Trump and the deals that he's willing to put forth, or how he is clearly in Putin's camp, not Ukraine's. But this was never a question prior to Trump. Zelensky got along fine with the U.S. when it was Biden, had solid support. Even prior to when he refused to let Trump blackmail him to get dirt on Biden and Hunter Biden and Burisma, he had a solid relationship with Trump even. But now that Trump is in Putin's pocket, now that he has this vendetta against Zelensky for not giving him the blackmail, he has to resign? That's kind of insane. It's just a play to get Zelensky out and install a pro-Russian puppet in his place.
If there is waste and fraud in the Defense Department, which is the largest single budget item that we fund, which has not been able to fulfill an independent audit in the last 7 times, where there's massive waste and fraud, we should go after waste, fraud, and abuse in every agency of government. There's no argument about that. But let us be very clear. What Republicans are trying to do right now is to make massive cuts in Medicaid, over $800 billion, cuts in nutrition programs which feed hungry children. Why are they doing that? Because they want to be able to use those savings to provide over $1 trillion in tax breaks for the richest 1%, for the Elon Musks and the Zuckerbergs and the Bezoses of the world. In my view, you don't take food away from children, health care away from struggling people to give tax breaks to billionaires.
When the Pentagon and the defense budget fail audit after audit 7 times in a row, it's, oh, well, we need our national defense. How dare these woke commies want to cut it? But when Medicaid has paperwork filing errors, all of a sudden then, and only then, do we have to cut $880 billion from the budget. None of the math even works out. Even from the fraud Republicans themselves are claiming, it doesn't add up to $880 billion for Medicaid cuts or $230 billion cut from food stamps. So even if they were being all the way honest with the fraud they found, which it's been proven that they aren't, they would still have to be cutting non-fraud with the cuts they put forth. It's literally taking candy from a baby, a sick baby, to give it to a billionaire to sell. Because it's obvious where the priorities lie for the Republican Party. It's with their donors.
Social Security is the biggest Ponzi scheme of all time. Basically, people are living way longer than expected. And there are fewer babies being born. So you have more people who are retired and that live for a long time and get retirement payments. So the future obligations. So however bad the financial situation is right now for the federal government, it will be much worse in the future.
Senator, President Trump says he's not going to touch Social Security. Elon Musk calls it a Ponzi scheme. Do you agree?
Now, I think what Musk, the wealthiest guy in the world, just said is totally outrageous. That's a hell of a Ponzi scheme when for the last 80 years, Social Security has paid out every nickel owed to every eligible American. Quite a Ponzi scheme. What is in fact a problem is that if we don't make reforms and improve the funding mechanism, in the next 9 years, the Social Security Trust Fund, which provides about 20% of the funding, will go broke.
Right. And I love how these billionaires talk about Social Security like one day it might run out and we don't know what will happen then. We literally know exactly what will happen. In 2035, if nothing changes, the trust fund will run out, which supplies around 17% of the Social Security benefits. The other 83% would be unaffected and could actually increase in what it'll cover as worker productivity continues to increase. We could also keep the trust fund completely funded if we just remove the income limit caps for Social Security, which would only lead to the top 9% of earners paying more towards Social Security and taxes. Bernie Sanders proposed this bill and Republicans killed it. It was dead on arrival because of them, but they care so much about protecting Social Security. In truth, Social Security is one of our best funded government functions, to where even if and when the government shuts down completely, our Social Security payments can still go through. The entire thing that Elon Musk is talking about here, that Republicans have cycled decades trying to attack, is an attack on the benefits and entitlements that you work to earn. By the way, they haven't missed a payment in 8 decades. And so they're pretty consistent in their track record. But it's because those earning enough that they don't have to rely on Social Security are upset that they have to pay into it still, despite it keeping 2/3 of our seniors out of poverty.